Hi everyone, my name is Samantha and this is my cultural event presentation. So I decided to choose the Indian Fair Market, which is an annual festival that happens every year at the Heard Museum in Phoenix, and it is to celebrate Indigenous art from around the country. It also holds art contests for children and both adults. It also provides various dancing ceremonies and more. So why did I choose this event or this population specifically? I chose to focus on the population of Native Americans because I wanted to gain a better understanding of their heritage, history, and culture by immersing myself within the community. I also wanted to identify ways of how the community lives and the barriers faced because of their racial identity. Also, to get real practice for cultural competence and learning about the history of the land I live on. And fourth, differences in life experiences and critically thinking about the ways privilege has given me advantage over this oppressed group. My thoughts and expectations going into this event was mainly just being anxious about what my presence meant to the people there, and if I was offending anyone in any way. I was always scared that I was going to say something wrong or do something wrong. I also thought that the art would just mainly be on canvases or photographs, but they had a lot of other, they had lots of jewelry, fabrics, dresses, all kinds of things. So the experience I got there, the things I learned, I split into history, beliefs, and traditions. So in the history, the dance performances that you see in the photos up top, in between the dances, a speaker would give a little bit of details about the different tribes that were performing. So one example is the Hopi tribe of Navajo, which is in the northeast part of Arizona, I believe. And they talked about their unique traditions such as Katsina messengers and the extension of shamanism and the differences in ways tribes celebrate their culture differently. And I also found out the challenges in facing colonization and the pressure of Western beliefs. Colonization is something that, of course, is something I've heard of, but it was never really spoken about seriously in a serious matter in high school. The beliefs, I found that they have a profound love with the connection with Mother Earth and Father Sky. They also have a high value for kinship, which I will go into detail later about. Individual thoughts on American government. There kind of wasn't one collective belief, but everyone, just like any other group, I think, varied on what they thought of the current conditions, and the passing of tradition through generation and the importance of keeping their native languages alive. Thirdly, traditions. There's a variety of dances used as prayers, such as the Navajo Eagle Dance, which is what you see in those photos up there, the basket dance, which will be shown later, and more. I also really like that the idea of cradle boards for children and the way it symbolizes protection, both spiritually and physically. And they also have ceremonies that give offerings for the Creator as a thanks for letting them use the resources of the earth. I really enjoyed this. Native American culture is something that I've always been interested in, especially the realm of shamanism. So I'm glad I was able to do this one. Then we'll go into the challenges of oppression and discrimination. I chose two topics, were systemic neglect and stereotyping and appropriation. So the systemic neglect is going to connect to this photo on the left here. It was done by an artist named Divine DeGloria, and it represents the missing children, missing Indigenous children, and the non-representation of Indigenous culture in America. So the systemic neglect, the artist told me that they were highlighting the lack of urgency and the support from government on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Many Indian reservations also lack funding for adequate resources, especially in looking for these missing women and children, and also just like resources in general, such as healthcare, mental health services, and things like that. I also found an interesting fact on the Urban Indian Health Institute that reported murder being the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women of any age. For the stereotyping and appropriation, I decided to talk about stereotyping because of the baskets you see in the right corner. They are ceremony baskets, but are commonly called wedding baskets by white people. And it really plays into the cultural appropriation. I first talked about the stereotyping, which the slurs and name calling that have been an ongoing issue since the early years of America, and especially things considering casinos on native land, costumes that falsely, represent or make fun of the culture, labeling. These all oppress the dignity and understanding of this community. In terms of that photo in the ceremonial basket, people use them as house decorations or fruit baskets, which completely diminishes the cultural importance of that item. And then those photos. I wanted to specifically look at the strength in kinship in Native American culture. I really resonated with it, and I thought it was something I could get along with. The speaker talked about the foundational concept of kinship and the strengthening of tribal connections, not only with fellow natives, but of all races. Basically, the same as loving your neighbor, the same like building strength in getting a bigger community. Kinship also keeps the culture alive and helps keep tribal languages alive. A lot of the tribal languages have been lost because children have not wanted to learn them or have not been taught them. And as a whole, it is a concept that represents compassion and care. Next are the harmful policies that impact this. I chose one from the past and one that is currently causing issues. The one in the past was the Indian Relocation Act, which went through quite a couple of times. The first Indian Relocation Act came out in 1830, somewhere around then. But the one in 56 I wanted to talk about is because it was a recommendation, but it was quite forceful, and it was a policy that pushed Native Americans out of reservations and into urban cities, which may sound like not a big deal, but there was no support given for the relocation, which made it harder to obtain jobs, housing, and healthcare outside of that reservation. Then on the withdrawal from WHO, which is the World Health Organization, recently Trump's decision to withdraw from the WHO will detrimentally impact Indigenous people and other oppressed groups. Native Americans already have the highest rate of disability in America, and crucial resources like outbreak information, vaccinations, and public health access are all going to be changed in the way people can access them. And that produces a lot of more racial barriers that already exist. Next is the implications for practice. So working with the community itself, I looked more into the meso approach because of the highlighting of kinship. I think kinship, working with a client that is Indigenous, I think I would bring that up if that was something a part of their meaning and their morals. One implementation is helping create school support groups for Indigenous children across school districts. It's created to create friendships and learn about their cultural identity and barriers faced because of that. Learning that at a young age can maybe help them find a deeper meaning in what it means to be Indigenous, or how that is going to affect them in the future because of the oppression and discrimination that still exists. Some key takeaways is that I'm able to better understand the struggles and strengths of Indigenous people. So when I start to work with clients, I am able to have a more understanding of what they might be having issues with. It's also helped to unlearn biases to avoid assumptions of members. And then cultural humility and competence. I learned how to respectfully ask curious questions, learned about local community and how I may play into those barriers, deeper understanding of Indigenous culture and beliefs, and a better unbiased approach. And that is the end of presentation. Thank you.